Hey, what's up out there, guys? What it is. Got a great one lined up for you today. If you'd like to support this channel, there are PayPal and Patreon links in the info box below. We're camping out here, dropping anchor at natural science and the scientific method. That's what I promised you. We ain't budging. Nathan Oakley, sir. How's it going out there?
Very well indeed. Good to be here. Good about science.
Yes, we are, sir.
Excellent.
Who else we got?
Yo, it's me, Arwin.
Turn him down.
Oh, am I that loud?
No, yeah, your mic is really powerful. There you go. You're good.
Oh, I take some distance. Right? Yeah, good evening, everyone. Science.
It's science, man. Right? That's right. People are going to get so sick of it. Right? They're just going to be puking it up. And that's what I want to do, man. Because
I had a little...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just saying, before this, right before I came on here, I was on 24/7 Discord for like an hour. And science came up a little bit in chat there. And I discussed... No, wait, it was over at Dell's. It was pretty fun, pretty vibrant over there. But we were talking about science, and somebody said, wait, objectivity, isn't that just as good as science? And I said, no. Objectivity comes from the consciousness. Science is empirical. It shows you what is and what is not. And the consciousness will determine objectivity, will roll out however you view it. But science is just, it precedes objectivity or subjectivity. It just shows you what is and what is not.
That's what I said. I said what it is.
How can you even ask that question?
and
Thank
it is,
God you're dropping anchor here.
Yeah. It's objective. All right. You either got subjective or objective. So science, this actual scientific method is objective. That's the whole point. It's not subjective. Follow?
Yes. Cause of an effect.
And I was out there earlier this morning, and this is the new globe Earth proof. I can't believe this guy said this. He goes, book a flight. I was like, what?
You're kidding me.
Nope, I'm not kidding. I'm not making it up. And I know who it was. We know him. His name is Emerald. I haven't seen him in a while, but Nathan knows who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I vaguely know what you mean.
Yeah. I would put Emerald up a little. He's in the slightly upper echelon of brain dead spinning space monkey. He's above that. So I was pretty surprised at that statement. So Emerald, if you're out there, come on in here, man. That was weak. He also took a jab at me. For some reason, I don't know why. I haven't seen him in a coon's age. But there you have it.
Just sharing his pain, just letting you know that you bother him.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it was today because this was taped because Chemo's been just plugging videos, video after video after video. I got numpty clips backed up, right? I can't get them out fast enough. So there's some admin there that has to be dealt with. But
can I give a little disclaimer about today's show?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on other shows, I've stressed the importance of why we talk about what we're talking about in relation to flat Earth. And today I want to just sort of broaden it a little bit in terms of your, as an audience member, ability to spot nonsense wherever it may be as a result of them claiming science when none has actually been applied. Because you hear it all the time. And I know the last show we did live, been a couple of examples that I put out myself. One was from GR Research. We might have talked about that on one of your week shows. I forget. And the other was from Aston Martin. And it's just because of this subject matter and knowing what science is, or importantly, what it isn't, that your ears prick up when you hear somebody talking about a bit of maths, mixing a bit of paint, and saying, this is science. Why? Well, because they want to lend a little bit more validity to their claim. That's not to say that he's wrong. In that particular instance, fixing paint, getting it just so, alchemy, as he put it, fair enough. Great, more power to you. I'm sure you need a lot of knowledge and understanding to do that. But the moment you say it's science, immediately someone like me can say, well, no, that invalidates what you've just said, because you're now turning your mathematical claim into a pseudoscience claim, because you're claiming science where none applies. And that happens all the time, from tires to recipes to all sorts of other things, that you'll hear people claiming it's science when it isn't. Now, that obviously context is for us to say, when we have somebody claiming that they've got scientific evidence for the Earth being a spinning ball in a sky vacuum, you can just ask them, what's your scientific evidence based on the information you picked up here or on other quantum eraser shows? Or, if you're a bit more knowledgeable, ask them for what the observed phenomena, otherwise known as dependent variable, is. And so it goes on in this context. But as I say, as a more broad understanding gives you, you can, like I'm doing now, smile when someone comes up with this claim that they've got a bit of science, merely to add a bit more credence to a just so story, or a bit of maths. I'm done.
No, you're right on point. That's how they do it. And it's just, most of it's out of ignorance. And it's a fallacy. They're equivocating. That's all it comes down to. They're equivocating fallacy. It's a bait and switch, right? It's between, they'll say science and have so many different meanings for that word, right? And not only do they do that, equivocate, but reify it. Well, science changes. Science wants. Science works. No, it doesn't do anything. Science is the scientific method. It's inanimate. There's nothing there except a simple, logical method. Now, the results don't have to be logical, right? They're based in philosophy. The scientific method was philosophical naturalism. It's ironic that that it was destroyed. Philosophical naturalism was destroyed by the scientific method, but that's a story for another day. But the main ones are equivocation, bait and switch, using like observational science, computer science. Like, observational science is painfully redundant because the first step of the scientific method is observation. So observational science, you're not really saying anything. There's been a couple big mistakes on that coming up in an empty clip, so stay tuned for that. Or computer science, any of the social sciences. As long as that's science on the end, then that seems like it's good enough for them and good enough to propagate to the feeble-minded. That was probably too harsh. Probably to the uninformed. So that's what they do. It's a simple bait and switch. And then the reifications really crack me up. Shout out to Chris. Fight the good fight. Appreciate that. Great information, QE. Keep up the good work. Roger. I will.
Let's take it to the next level in terms of their bluff as well, when people like Rumpus would say the whole body of science proves another reification fallacy. It doesn't have a body and it's not attempting to do anything physical. It's a method. But they had the overconfidence to say all of science proves we're on a globe.
Yeah, all of science. Somebody said something earlier this morning, too. Science corrects it. Science changes. We went over this stuff before, and it's going to be in part of this presentation coming. I think the next part. Science changes. Science corrects itself. Heard that this morning. Science tries. What are you? What? What are you doing? I don't know. I think mainly people want to get their 10,000 words out. And they want to be in good company. I don't know. You know what? I'm going to stop trying to friggin' ferret out, what Crayon Muncher's motives. I'm just going to leave that go, man, because it's pretty preposterous. And they could be, all their claims could be destroyed by a 5th grade general science graduate. Another thing I've been hearing too, since it's now my method, it's QE's method. Have you heard that? You guys heard that?
Yeah, we've heard that. Yes.
Well, thanks, but yeah, it's not mine. I didn't come up with it, you know. But yeah, since it's my method, I don't know what we're gonna do about that. Huey's method is highly stringent. I didn't make that stuff up, folks. I'm telling you. I'm here to tell you it's not my method.
Dude, it's the best advertisement ever. Every time somebody gets triggered because somebody gets literal with the scientific method, they're gonna just advertise for you automatically and not even realize.
Yeah. I appreciate.
There is one more.
Go ahead.
There's one other thing that they say about science that is the most outrageous, because they say science doesn't prove things,
Yes.
only disproves things, which in itself is self-contradictory and stupid.
Precisely.
But the only thing science does is prove things. That's all it does.
Well, as soon as they say, this is so second grade numpty, as soon as you say, I'm disproving something, well, you're on the you're ipso facto proving the converse. This is, why do I even have to go over this? Right? This is self-evident. If I disprove something, if I disprove that you're an amoeba, then you're not an amoeba. I just proved you're not an amoeba. You follow? It's just common sense. So what they do, their epistemology is from Wiki or from the pseudoscientists that they've heard on the Discovery Channel, right? With science corrects itself, science does this. Yeah, the pseudoscientists are telling you that their pseudoscience corrects itself because they need to get out of incoherent jail free card because their stuff is going to change, and it has changed from the beginning. Why? Well, because it's pseudoscience. It wasn't true to begin with. Now it needs that flexibility, that shape-shifting flexibility to go ahead and change. And then they say, well, science changes. No, that's pseudoscience. Science doesn't change. The scientific method doesn't change. It's just a method anyway. Be funny. Well, let's go.
There was one other thing.
Go ahead.
Well, when they say that it changes, there's a way you can qualify how much it will change by, and called the half-life of facts. In other words, qualify how much something that they say is true today will actually be proven, disproven tomorrow. So it's called the half-life of facts. Just look it up.
Half-life of facts, huh?
Got it. They went through it with a show on UK TV called Quite Interesting, or QI. And basically they took some of the information from the first series or second series and they did it alphabetically. So by the time they're up to J or K or whatever, they start looking at A again. And with this question in mind, they pointed out some of the information that they'd said to the audience, this is fact, is now not fact. It's changed. And the example they gave was quite interesting in our particular field because it was about NASA. So one of the examples they gave was about how many moons Earth has. And the answer at the time, according to NASA, was 12. But then they asked the same question again on the more recent or the more up-to-date show that they're talking about the half-life of facts. They said, actually, it's something like 20,000. In other words, that particular factoid, quotes, had changed, right? Well, I'm sure when it was 12 moons, because we made it up ourselves, and therefore it's true, it's science. Right? It's NASA, therefore it's science, therefore we say 12. But that fact just decided to change. Likewise, any other fact, formation of Earth, formation of the moon, you could just change the story if it doesn't quite work. Molten iron core doesn't timeline. Well, we'll change that fact. But of course, that fact's come under the heading of science, hasn't it? So
Yep.
You've got to write that wrong by saying, oh, well, science is flowing. Just waiting to disprove itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the science is greasing the skids. It gives it a shot in the arm, right? Just that little more kick of apparent validity. You got to love that.
Yes, scientists say. You ever listening to a news report and you hear those two words, scientists say,
Yeah.
you need to have a little red light over your head going, whoa!
Yeah. Scientists say, or the consensus says, get ready, bend over. It's coming. Oh, and back to the half-life of facts. And I know you already realize this. If it's a fact, then how can it have a half-life?
Yeah, it can't. Never was a fact part of their story. But
Yeah.
science changes, John. You should know this.
I do know this. We need a contradictionary. That's what we need. Hey, shout out the Truth Sharing Mirror. Get yourself a coffee or a beer on me, brother. Keep up the good work. I will. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Can I say something?
No.
It's kind of ironic. Oh,
No, go ahead.
okay. What the fuck? Right. So the ironic thing is with the scientific method, actual science, is that it is waiting to be disproven. It's basically challenging you. Like, okay, are you going to do the hypothesis test and manipulate the independent variable in order to prove or disprove the cause of the effect? But if it's actual science, if it's confirmed science, then yeah, it'll wait for all eternity because everybody that's going to test it is basically going to prove it correct.
There's another. I'm gonna put a double drop anchor connected to that point. We'll get to this in the presentation. I've been hearing this. I should have stopped last week and put a little bit more emphasis on this section. But I was, like I said, I was listening this morning, and some of the flat earthers were having a difficult time with this. So I'm gonna stop there. I'll tell you when I get there. All right, we ready to roll?
Let's do it.
What? Let's do it. My favorite independent variables because, as I said, it's not only my method, but I was called when I first came out here. It took a little while, maybe about 2 months, when I developed the name Independent Variable John. They all snickered. The ballers all snickered when they called me that. But I was like, damn, thanks. Appreciate it. But they were so unaware at the time. They didn't even know what an independent variable was. That at least they do know the name of it. Now, after 5 years, most know the name. Now, they don't have any depth with it. The furthest depth that I've seen is that they're now coming to the fact that it has to be varied and manipulated. They got there, right? But that's all they got. If they got that, right? So most of them know the word, and they can be varied or manipulated. That's it. That's where it ends, right? There's no context, right? Too funny. So let's take a look at what this is. From Penn State University, independent variable is what is varied during the experiment. It is what the investigator thinks the effect will affect the dependent variable. This is what I lost my train of thought before. This is what I wanted to touch on. I'm glad we came out of the gate with this. Not only that it's my scientific method, but it's an elementary school method. For whatever I don't know where they got this from. I think they're confusing when I say they'd fail 5th grade general science. They flip that on its head and think that I discussed this in terms of this is only the elementary school scientific method. I don't know how they did that. It's kind of strange. Those cobwebs in there. I'm not going in there and trying to figure out their cobwebs, right? But that is really stupid. Number one, it's stupid on that level that I talked about. Number two, do you think that they teach like an incorrect method in elementary school, and then when you get to high school or university, that they all of a sudden release the secret knowledge of the scientific method? Is that what you think? Can somebody explain that to me? Right? It's so stupid. It's you're revealing right where you're at. No argument, no coherent one anyway. And it's like you're throwing stuff at the wall, and maybe other retards might agree with you. I don't get it. I really don't. And by the way, at university, The scientific method was never spoken of. Never. They expected you to know it. Right? It's self-evident. Everyone knew the scientific method. If you're in an actual science field, you better know it. You're going to get compromised the first 30 seconds in class. Right? People are going to start laughing at you. So sorry to go off on that tangent. I had that thought in my mind before and that triggered it. So there you go. So I don't know. This is the elementary school method. Let's take a look. Is Penn State University elementary school? Well, I know. What about Colorado State? The next definition. Independent manipulated variable. Variable changed by the scientist, what the investigator is testing. So is Colorado State and Penn State, or they must be elementary schools. Is that what you guys are saying? Clowns. Here we go. Here's another one. The University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Are they in elementary school? In an experiment, the independent variable is the variable that is varied or manipulated by the researcher. And the dependent variable is the response that is measured. An independent variable is the presumed cause, whereas the dependent variable is the presumed effect. The IV is the antecedent, whereas DV is consequent. Quite comprehensive, don't you think? One of the best definitions that I've come across. Institute of Physics. Is the Institute of Physics elementary school or primary school over in England? I don't know. They call it the same in Australia. I think they do, primary school. Is this primary school, Institute of Physics? University of North Carolina? Penn State University and Colorado State? You wouldn't think so. Institute of Physics, independent variable. The variable that is deliberately changed by the experimenter. From the University of Southern California Elementary School, independent variable. The variable that is stable and unaffected by other variables you are trying to measure. It refers to the condition of an experiment that is, now it's systematically, so deliberately and systematically manipulated by who? By the investigator. It is the presumed cause. A lot of echoes, don't you think? Presumed cause, systematically manipulated by the researcher, deliberately changed by the scientist. Presumed cause, manipulated by the researcher? Like I said, it must be a conspiracy. A conspiracy of elementary schools. Oh, brother. Weak. Remember, now, we talked about this before. Like, they know the word, and at least they got as far as you must vary and manipulate. Now, they're not as far as you must vary and manipulate it. They think if nature can vary and manipulate something, that it's good to go. Not the researcher, so I stand corrected. Remember, viable independent variables must satisfy 3 criterion. Number 1, it's your presumed cause. That's the most important. Number 2, as we just went over, the researcher must be able to vary or manipulate it. Why? Well, because it's in the definition of the term or the phrase. It's an inherent characteristic. Number 3, the independent variable must demonstrably exist before you use it in an experiment. All 3 criterion must be satisfied, not just one. Height, depth, width, length, distances, and time are not viable independent variables. The biggest one is the cause part. Let's go through a few of them. Number 1, the submarine was crushed at a depth of 10,000 feet. Did depth cause the sub to implode, or was it pressure? Number 2, the gentleman was so obese he measured 1 meter wide. Did width cause obesity, or was it laziness combined with excessive caloric intake? Number 3, over the course of the night, the sun suddenly appeared above the horizon. Did time cause the sun to appear above the horizon? Does time cause the difference of scores between the first and third quarters? See how silly these are? Let's stop right here. Questions, comments?
You know the Penn State quote that you say is the best one ever? They don't stress enough that it's a supposition. I was going to criticize it, and then you're like, it's the best one ever.
Really? Yeah, it doesn't. That's what, neither of them do that. I haven't come across like the full, it's a supposition of cause and effect. That would have made it more complete. I would suppose you would be correct.
Suppose I am correct. They make it out like the cause is the independent variable.
Yeah.
Well, no, the validated cause, if experimentation had been performed and you validated, then that statement would be correct, but only then. So it's correct in the respect that if you're looking at it from the perspective that you've got a validated cause, validated by experiment, because in the context of what they say, correct me if I'm wrong, they don't even detail the null, do they?
No, you will not find the null hypothesis. You're going to have to go searching. Now you're going to get a lot of statistical. The null hypothesis is usually associated with statistical studies. Don't let that fool you, right? As soon as you get into statistics, you are out of science. That's induction. You're completely out of it. If anything's associated with experiment with that, drop it. Good? Good. You brought up another important, very important point. Let me ask this question. Is a hypothesis a presupposition or a supposition?
Supposition.
Exactly. Is there a difference between supposition? I'm not asking you this to you, Nathan, just rhetorically. Is there a difference between a supposition and a presupposition? Yeah. Big difference between presuppositions and suppositions. Go find out what that is. So if somebody tells you a hypothesis is a presupposition, they're at their minds, and presupposition doesn't equal supposition.
There's a reason why they do that, though, and the reason is because they take what they call a hypothesis in their just so story to be the actual explanation. So if you are to take the presumed cause of the effect and state it as that, as a conclusion, and call it a hypothesis, which is what they do, just have to accept that that is what they do without me giving an example on the spot, then you've got a presupposition. In other words, you're automatically assuming that the thing you have as your independent variable in this vernacular is the cause of the effect. You're presupposing it's the cause of the effect, as opposed to a supposition of cause yet to be validated. Would be
correct. We can say it more simply, though. A presupposition is a standing premise, whereas a supposition is open to question. How about that?
Beautiful. Much better than what I said.
Exactly. Yeah, but you were all over. You just said it a different way. You're exactly right. All right. Anything else? I'll take that as a no. Let's move on. And like you said, null hypotheses. This is from California State, Northridge. To do a hypothesis test that is an experiment, you will actually have two hypotheses, the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis, which are stated in such a way that they are mutually exclusive. That is, you can't have both hypotheses be true. The null hypothesis is the conclusion that is considered the default. You will accept this hypothesis if you fail to find sufficient support for the alternative hypothesis. Makes perfect sense. And it's always the default position until you test it. And that doesn't take centuries. That takes minutes or hours. The null hypothesis from sciencenotes.org. Well, what is it? Well, it's what null means, right? The zero difference, or it means no difference. Null, a null result, no difference. Hypothesis predicts that changing one variable the independent variable will have no effect on the variable being measured, right? So how can you have a hypothesis or a null hypothesis without an independent variable when its inherent characteristic, it's within the definition? You can't. You must have a viable independent variable so you can be able to falsify or reject the null hypothesis. Many places you'll see that as the goal of the scientific method. I have no issue with that, because if you reject or falsify the null, guess what you just did? You proved the alternative. My word. Like I said before, the alternative and the null hypotheses are stated in such a way that they are mutually exclusive. Both can't be true. For example, observe a natural phenomena. Healthy type 1 diabetes patients suffer from diabetic ketoacidosis, apparently from the absence of adequate insulin. Right? The alternative hypothesis is easy. Given otherwise healthy type 1 diabetes patients, the lack of insulin will see this will right here? Will lead to diabetic ketoacidosis. The null is easy. Given otherwise healthy type 1 diabetes patients, the lack of insulin will not. See? See how you do that? It's just the inverted mirror image. So given otherwise healthy type 1 diabetes patients, the lack of insulin will not lead to diabetic ketoacidosis. So the alternative is will lead, and the null is will not. You will answer one of these questions when you test the alternative. You never test the null. The null is never tested. This guy is tested. The alternative hypothesis, always. The null is your default, remember? So the dependent variable in this hypothesis is the prediction is diabetic ketoacidosis, and the independent variable is the cause, insulin, lack of. Very easy. This is the framework of every single viable hypothesis you'll ever come across. It's that easy, folks. Cause and effect, right? Independent-dependent variable relationship. Here's a summary of it. Alternative hypothesis, null hypothesis, and experiment, the constituent parts. In the alternative hypothesis, the independent variable, the cause, plus the dependent variable, the effect, equals prediction of cause and effect. The null hypothesis is the same independent variable and dependent variable that's in the alternative. It doesn't change. It's a prediction of not or no cause and effect. The experiment is the independent variable plus the dependent variable, the ones that are in the alternative. Right? They don't change. The experiment doesn't change from the hypothesis you laid down. I've heard that a couple days ago. I couldn't friggin' believe it. Right? The only addition that changes from the alternative hypothesis to the experiment are these guys right here. Controls or constants are added. That's the only change. It's a prediction of cause and effect, just like the alternative. Good? We can stop there. We ain't in a hurry. Yeah. Good.
All is well.
Is anybody out there?
You got 2 new super chats,
Just
by the way.
let me check. Hey, Shatner's bassoon. We were told implicitly we are pseudoscientists in sociology. Yeah, you are in sociology. It's a social science. We can't experiment. That's correct. Did they tell you that? The sociology professors? If they did, one up for them. That's correct. And Vlad said, thanks. You're welcome, sir. Yeah, I'd be real interested in Shatner's bassoon if his sociology professors told him that. Yeah. And good on them if they did. I would be a little shocked if they did, to be honest. Because most have that placard up on the wall, right? Science. Or they walk through the hallowed gates with the arch, right? Science. And then there's astronomy, cosmology, astrophysics, paleontology. Sometimes there's computer science and economics in there too, right? And all the other belly laughers. Evolutionary biology. Yeah, I'm still laughing. Whatever that is, by the way. Yep, that's what you'll have. A lot of pride in that. Especially when you start to tear it down right in front of their faces. And after they paid like $200,000 and up for that placard. That's going to cause a problem. That's why they share their pain with me.
Evening.
Hey, Adam, right on time, man.
If I can just add to that bit, I can't speak for sociology directly, personally, but certainly for psychology. The same was done. And this is the interesting, it's done on day one, yeah? This disclaimer. It's a bit like the ballers. They get the dirty shit out early on, and then they carry on and pretend it is a science, whether that's psychology or sociology. Yeah? But I distinctly remember the same disclaimer on day one of my psychology. So
Adam gave me worms.
I tried to give you kids worms, not you.
Adam gave my kids worms.
Yeah, they're a little bit feisty in the background, man. That's all right. All right. Anything else? We can roll on. I like this. Let's do it. So this is one of the parts where I wanted to stop just for a couple minutes. Maybe clear up some confusion. The entire goal of the scientific method is to elucidate or reveal cause and effect relationships. That's all it does. The last presentation a couple weeks ago, we talked about this with the two-step algo. Right? Your first question was, is it a natural phenomenon? The second question was, is it a how, why, cause, and effect question or a what is question? And I said what is questions are non sequitur. They can't enter the scientific method. We're going to go over a couple here that sound sciencey. You'll get confused because the people that bring it up, they'll bring it up real fast, right? Real fast on you. Boom, 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 boom. And say, what? Is that science? That's science. Jeez, come on. Right? So that is the explanation by demonstration of the hows and whys. Like I said, that leads to scientific theories. Actual scientific theories, not theory. Scientific theory. That's a different animal altogether. Not describe the what's and the is. Science, the scientific method, natural science is not into descriptions at all. They have nothing whatsoever to do with it. And it makes sense. Listen, anyone can describe something, right? Any idiot. I can go down to the corner village idiot and he can give me a description of anything, right? Whether it's mathematically or in another context, in another convention. He can dream up a convention to describe something, right? It's utterly meaningless. My son could go out there and describe a bread box. He's not a scientist. Okay? Here's some examples that they'll flood you with. They might not be the exact examples, but they're in the same genre, right? Identifying mitochondria or Golgi apparatus in eukaryotes. Is that science? No. That's a what is question, right? You're only describing, so it's not friggin' science. However, it sure sounds like biology, right? So if it's biology, then it must be science. No. There is a lot in each of these disciplines that are not and do not follow the scientific method. Just what it is. So each claim has to be evaluated separately on its inherent characteristics, not the broad term over the arch. Right? If somebody says is biology science, well, that's a malformed question. What in biology are you speaking to specifically? will be your next question. It better be. Don't let me hear anything else. Identifying the spin of an electron. That's a what is question again, right? That is not friggin' science. Sounds sciencey, but it's not. Why? Because it's a what is question. Here's a perfect example of the biology train wreck. You got two biology train wrecks, right? Categorizing organisms in a taxonomic classification system. That's not science. That's glorified secretarial work, right? They're just conjuring conventions. Now, I'm not saying that they're not important, right? Or they're not useful. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that any of these are not important and not useful. I did not say that. I am not implying that whatsoever. All I'm saying is it's not friggin' science. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna stop right here. This is important. Questions, comments?
My wife's watching a movie, and two of the kids in the movie have got two plastic bottles of pop, fizzy pop. They shake them up, open the lid, scream, "I love science!" That's science.
What's the question?
They didn't have a question. They just shook up a bottle and they opened it.
Yeah. What's the question or the claim? That's the first question that you need to ask. But that's pretty funny. Yeah, because they're already indoctrinated, right?
Exactly. Got to get it in a kids' movie, nice and early.
Yep.
It's science. Why? Well, because something's happening with a chemical. There's a chemical reaction going on, right? So. Yeah.
Actually, there's not.
No, there's not. I thought it as soon as I said it.
I'm surprised Adam didn't jump on in there, man. Quick.
I did unmute.
Yeah.
I think the point I make is that what Nathan's saying is any currently, where the world is now, any divulgement of knowledge seems to be extra validated by saying it's science. That's a great example. That's just an observation, really. I mean, you could science some of it if you wanted to. But it seems that tag, isn't it, that science brings? I'm clever if I say this is science, what I'm doing. Yes. Even if it's not science, I've just described the knowledge is. Because what you're saying there, those previous examples, you can still find the spin of an electron, yeah, or figure out a way of doing it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's science. It's not in that thing. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a lack of intelligence there or anything, but it's that tag that people misuse now, just to imply that there's a level of intelligence there. They'll say it's science, like that. I'm a great scientist because I can determine the spin of an electron. Yes. Not what causes the spin of an electron.
That's another question, huh? Yeah, good luck with that one. Right. Yes, they use science. What? They use science as like a shot in the arm, right? To give it that little extra oomph of apparent validity. That's what it is. It's just a linguistic game. Shout out to Shatner's. Oh yeah, he answered my question. Check this out. Shatner's bassoon. Lecture 1. The head of the sociology department. Put the disclaimer out that sociology was pseudoscience. Can you believe that? I'd like to know what school. You don't have to say what school you went to. I'm not trying to get any more super chats from you, dude. Maybe somebody can read it in there. We need to highlight it somehow.
I think that's harsh, John.
What?
The definition of pseudoscience is if you purport it to be science. Now, if you've already made the disclaimer that this is correlational-based studies, what psychology is, sociology is, and as long as you don't then try to say down the line it's science, then surely that's not pseudoscience.
Correct.
It's just...
Yeah. You're correct. That's correct, Adam. Thank you. Yes. It has to masquerade as natural science. If you come out with the disclaimer right away in that class, then it's not pseudoscience. You're correct, Adam. However, outside the class, people will still think it's science. Follow? Yep.
Yeah, well, if people are stupid, that's their fault. As long as you're not stood outside the class saying this is science in there, and you're not doing pseudoscience, you can't be accused of something from somebody else's ignorance.
Exactly. Right again, Adam. Boy, you're sharp, man.
But, like with most things, if you've got a bit of a deception, best to hide it right in the front cover. So if you're going to do that, put the word science over the door of the classroom.
Then before you walk in, you ahem and genuflect, right?
That's a new word. That's a new word. Genuflect. What does that mean?
Genuflect. I've used that before, man.
New one on me. What does it mean?
Genuflect. Come on, genuflect. The genuflect. How can I describe that? I can do it. It's hard to describe. Bow your head and give your oh God, let me just go it up.
This is good. I like new words. Always good.
Let's see what I'm interested now too. Genuflect.
Is this a real word or another one for the flat Earth glossary?
No, it's genuflect is a real word.
I
didn't know if it was.
I've never heard it used in context, and I don't know what it means, but I know it's a word.
There you go. Okay, lower one's body, like I was saying, briefly by bending one knee to the ground, typically in worship or as a sign of respect. That's what I was going for. As a sign of, I was going to say condolences, but that was out of context. So there you go.
I see. So what you're saying is you offer the respect to the word.
Yes.
And its meaning. And then walk through the door.
Exactly. You got it. Yeah.
So could I say that Harry had to show Meghan how to genuflect before meeting his grandmother?
You could do that.
Courtesy.
Yeah.
It'd be that.
It could be a social courtesy. Yes. Social graces. Yes. Could be. Usually it's in the context of, smart ass like me when you're using it in that context, being facetious about it.
Okay. Got you. Cool.
So we learned a new word today.
My kids will be learning it tomorrow as I get them to genuine.
Try that on this generation, right? That ain't gonna work.
Can I make an observation about the modern use of the word science?
Yes, go.
Right. So what I've noticed is that science is basically undergoing the same process as earlier forms of Christianity, when it was basically being wielded by the priesthood of the Catholicism and all that. So now science is basically printed in texts, in contexts, in occupations, almost like certain religious icons would be used to basically say, oh, this is good because we're with this specific element of that religion, right? It's the same effect. People use it. They think it's all great to get a good feeling, but they don't really understand it. And it's basically the same process over again, but with a different angle to it.
Yes.
Yeah, but the early days of Christianity was not Catholicism.
I know. That was the priesthood taking it over and making the actual meanings obscure, not allowing people to actually read it themselves and interpret it themselves and dictating to them how they should be thinking about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't have used Christianity in that sense. You're right.
Well, it's the early days of Catholicism.
Exactly.
I know. I'm just talking about the rough journey that Christianity has been taking, when it first was founded by Christ, and then what happened to it in all the times after that.
I had the hairs on the back of my neck stand up when you first said it.
All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trigger anything.
No, you weren't triggering. If you would have just used Catholicism, you would have been correct.
Yes.
Right. But yeah, when we go into that, then it's like what Christianity is real, it's The only Christianity is the person reading the Bible, interpreting it themselves, becoming their own.
Yeah, I'm not going down. What's a Christian here today? That's not what we're going for.
Actually, one more thing. He's right, though, because Catholicism means universal. I mean Roman Catholicism. I think that's what you're on about.
Right. They were the first ones to really assimilate the and turn it into a religion and take control.
Alrighty then.
Right. But anyway, the colloquial interpretation about science, people feel just like how they actually see science, and how I used to see it when the meaning wasn't all that cleared up to me, is it's just the body of knowledge. So you think, okay, I'm contributing to this field like computers. And to call it science is basically kind of a cultural expression to say I'm the body of knowledge that concerns this field. So it's completely culturalized now. When it's just a method. Really, that's what it really is.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. It's equivocated, right? It's a bait and switch.
I think you could take that definition if we were all still talking ancient Greek, but I think the derived word there, you could apply that definition to the way it was understood there. But I think certainly with regards to English, it has that overreaching of the sciences. But if you do phrase it properly, it has a very specific meaning, hence why it has such validity and definitiveness to the conclusion you're going to draw, which science demonstrates. So that's why it has such validity. You can take that, what you're saying there, the sciences, and use it in the more generalistic terms to imply that. But I think when ballers, certainly if we're talking in this field, when it's applied to this field, it's very specific in its meaning. It's not meaning a body of knowledge acquired, which is Greek to me. That.
Are you sure though? That's really what the ballers argued for. Remember the Rumpus days, like 3 years ago? He even said it: the body of science, the body of knowledge.
Oh, well, there's the difference. The whole body of science, I can agree with. If all of the things that are proved scientifically want to use to demonstrate something, fine. Yeah. But that's very different to the whole body of knowledge, because we can acquire knowledge outside of scientific method.
Precisely.
So one will be a lot larger than the other, the latter being the greater.
Right, but they scoop it pretty much up all together. And that's why you can do science by opening a bottle of of fizz.
A bottle of fizz.
Look at me personally, before Flat Earth, before you guys are teaching us, I used to think science didn't prove anything. That it disproved.
Yeah, but that's just a logical issue, isn't it? Take science out of that. We already went over it. Just take science out of it. If you disprove something, you ipso facto prove the converse true, correct?
Exactly, but that was my understanding of science, that it didn't prove anything.
Yeah, I know. I heard you the first time. I'm saying just take science the heck out of there, and it just comes down to a train wreck logical issue.
Well, now I know that.
Yeah,
I'd agree with you, Daniel. I think I'm on record at the beginning of this journey saying a similar thing.
Really?
Yeah. Because that is taught. There comes a point where they're still trying to maintain this thing as science, and you've not got this proper construction of hypothesis and experiment. So they'll try and force bits through. So there is that I think you look at a lot of the pseudosciences, as you list them, they'll try and do that so that actually you're not trying to necessarily prove something, just disprove something to move on to the next thing, so that you've and that's a narrative I certainly remember that they did. Look, Flat Earth Math that's up there. on screen will probably describe it exactly as such, that is their scientific method. But that's what does creep in, I think, to be honest with you. That actually you're prepared to act, and that's the point. You're prepared to accept that. You forget how rigorous the method has to be, and you're prepared to accept stuff like that because you're not saying this does this. You said it doesn't. So that's all right. But yeah, I don't think that mindset towards it is uncommon in academia as well, to be honest.
I wouldn't be surprised if I walked through actual science, even actual science courses in academia. I wouldn't be shocked to hear that. Shockingly. It couldn't be more wrong. It's like I said, it's just a simple logical problem. Once you say, like I said, take science out of it and just say that our method or whatever we do only disproves, it doesn't prove. It's a logical train wreck. Right on its face. All right, let's rock, man. This is the other favorite one. Mathematics. Mathematics isn't science or physics, folks. It's not. Doesn't have anything whatsoever to do with it. You think it does because of, science, math, technology, engineering, science, math. You get that told to you about 675,000 times as you're growing up, then you're just going to regurgitate it, right? Maths and science. Nope. Incorrect. And it's self-evident, much like a tape measure is in carpentry. One of the main reasons is they're different words. That should be your first clue. From Richard Feynman, mathematics is not a science from our point of view in the sense that it is not a natural science. The test of its validity is not experiment. There's another little gem in here, right? It's not a natural science. Why? Because it doesn't have experiment. You can take mathematics out of this. He's telling you what natural science must have. What must it have? Experiment. Dr. Carey Mullis, Nobel laureate, biochemistry and mathematics, which is really not science. Duh. From Professor Blakrishnan, Professor of Physics, ITT Madras. He really puts the wood to him. That's the whole point about physics. It's not mathematics. So it's not a set of axioms from which you derive results. The rules of the game you prepare to change and subsume in an even broader framework. So I don't know when they combine physics and mathematics, where are they getting that from? Wiki? That's where their epistemology comes from. Probably not just Wiki. Everyone's saying it, like I said, for most of their lives. As soon as you scratch right underneath the surface, it all falls apart. Chair of Physics, Professor Shanker's telling you right here again, quantum mechanics is a theory which is based on experiment. It's not deduced by mathematics. He juxtaposes these two, experiment and mathematics. Right? This is well done, no-brainer, folks. Maths or mathematics don't prove reality. For example, and I've been using this for a long time, 1 apple minus 6 apples is -5 apples. A lot of people bring that up and butcher it, but you get the gist from it. I mean, it's good in mathematics. Yeah, you can have -5 apples in math, but in reality, no. And if they say it's science and you say, okay, just pin them up against corners, germ theory, science, they're going to have to say yes. So that being, as they say, is that, then give me the equation of germ theory. Well, right? Yeah. Math is immaterial, abstract, rigidly domain specific, and at best merely describes. Remember we talked about descriptions above. It explains exactly squat, nada, niente, zero. So it doesn't have anything to do with science and the scientific method. Nothing. Zero. Conversely, actual scientists are in the business of explaining phenomena by validating or invalidating cause and effect relationships between independent and dependent variables via rigorous hypothesis testing. That's all science right there. Natural science. That's it right there. Can you show one case in all of history where mathematics caused any phenomena? Nope. Nope. It's non sequitur. The question's non sequitur. Can you show the laws of motion, that is equations, which are debunked anyway, causing a billiard ball to roll across the table? Another non sequitur. Simple category error. And we brought this one up last week, was Zeno's paradox, right? According to mathematics, there's an infinite distance between point A and point B. Better known as Zeno's paradox. That is, if I shoot an arrow from my back porch to the tree 20 feet away, the arrow, mathematically speaking, should never reach the friggin' tree. Why? Because there's an alleged infinite number of steps between any number. 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, you'll never get there. However, I go outside, that arrow's going to hit that tree. The easy way to do it. I mean, most people know this. It's intuitive. We can stop right here in mathematics because a lot of ballers, well, math this and math that, and you don't know maths. And flat earthers don't know maths. Crying knuckleheads.
Seems this movie semi-redeemed itself with its claim of science. So let's run this by you.
Right.
So what they did in the end was they mixed like dish soap with hydrogen peroxide, which is a chemical reaction.
Yes.
But still not science, though, is it? They're not observing a natural phenomena. They're producing this effect. So yeah, they've got an effect, but it's not science.
Ah, they're inducing one. Yep. Listen to you. See, they ain't paying attention.
Can I ask a question?
No.
Oh.
No, go ahead, man. I'm just messing with you.
Is this a new thing? I was because math technically falls under information category, right? It is part of communication, relaying ideas, like language, right?
Yes, you could classify mathematics as information. Yes, you can. Now thinking about what you said, yes.
Right. So I'm going to ask a bit of a complicated question.
Oh, no.
Couldn't it be basically proven within physics through the channels by which we deal with information? Like, couldn't math have an effect on, say, some kind of a setup similar to the quantum eraser experiment?
No.
Math, for me, Owen, it describes, okay, and it describes as best as it can. Within maths itself, it's very accurate. If you then try to apply it to reality, it does the best it can, but it's never, ever, ever going to be reality. So, for example, if I had a big cylinder and I pressurize it and I count how much metal the cylinder is, how thick it is, the shape of it, the how much I can pressurize it to, I can calculate it all. Suddenly, when I do it, the cylinder explodes. And that's because mathematically, what I didn't account for was the slight variances in the crystalline metal structure. That I just assumed it was all rigid. So that's what science is for me. It's a very useful tool that can describe things for us, but never to its fullness, because you have to understand things fully to be able to use maths to represent reality. So to me, it's a modeling thing at best in terms of its application to reality.
I agree, but still, if people are decently informed about how mathematics and physics representations work, then a mathematical representation of something could basically trigger an instant insight. So that really happens with concise, summarized explanations, which math kind of also does, especially within physics.
No, it doesn't. No explanations. Nope. Use the wrong word. It doesn't explain anything.
Representation, right?
You're saying it allows.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think you're saying there that with regards to the maths, if there's some matching, it allows to support deductive reasoning. Science, but it allows deductive reasoning and it'll validate it.
Can I have a bash? So it's the difference between describing or quantifying a hot spring, how much it boils, the rate it boils at. That's all maths. And it's descriptions, language. Whereas the explanation for why it boils, science. Descriptions, you only go so far with. Spend all day describing and qualifying a boiling hot spring. Does it tell you why? Does it explain it? No. That's where science comes.
Yeah, not that it's not important. We're not saying that. Don't even. I'm not even implying that. We're just dealing with what it is and what it isn't. Right? Mathematics is very important. Right? Oh.
Right. I wasn't trying to imply that math would be equated with science. Right? That's absolutely.
Oh, well, it is. Oh.
No. I was just asking, could math be proven as a thing, just like information, which is basically the category it falls under? That's
no, it can't give you the explanation, but that's where it's hijacked. So, for example, if I assume or presuppose the effect of the boiling water is the acid content, and then I go about describing mathematically how that occurs, I can explain it and describe it. Well, not explain it, describe it all day long with the maths. But my presupposition of the cause is wrong. So while I'm qualifying why the acid, I'm mixing terms deliberately here, by the way, I'm not just wrong, why the acid is causing the quantity of boiling, you can give that a mathematical number by way of what you've seen happen, by way of the effect. But you presume cause is nonsensical in the mathematics. The fact that you can give those values for it doesn't mean you've explained it. And therefore your causal link in the maths is ultimately flawed and wrong. You're describing something incorrectly. You're still describing it. You're still going through the process with that particular language. But in the same way as describing something wrong in Italian is no different to describing it incorrectly in English. Describing it incorrectly in maths as how the quantitative value of the acid that caused the water to boil is described in this particular term, well, it's still wrong, isn't it? Because it hasn't explained it. But it's being used or hijacked to claim an explanation because, look, I've got the maths. Maths doesn't lie. So when I assign cause and give you some numbers for it, that's where the magic trick comes in.
I totally agree. But, I'm going to leave it to this after this because I don't want to give you all a headache. What my curiosity is could math be proven within communication to be the cause of an effect? So really not as the utilization of a description, but as a separate, unique phenomenon.
Nope. It's just a convention used for communicating. That's all it is.
All right, I tried.
It's like saying, does Spanish cause things?
Well, that is arguable. Spanish is culture. If being confronted with Spanish has a different influence on your mood than being confronted with non-Spanish, it could be argued for.
I've got a cause, and actually it does. It used to cause you to leave early.
Yeah, that's going to come back hopefully after lockdown. But yeah, what I mean by that is not Spanish as an activity. I mean, the language of Spanish isn't going to cause anything. Likewise, the descriptions within maths aren't causal. You can't cause anything with maths.
Precisely.
Right. So it would always be secondary, even if you get it raw. It would be the understanding that it is guiding within the explanation. Is that what you mean?
Could describe the cause with maths, couldn't I? If I drop a weight and want to describe how that weight, when it hits the ground, has an impact, I can describe it with maths. But the maths has got nothing to do with reality. It's just a way of me trying to describe the reality in that language of maths. And that is very, and this is the point I was trying to make, that description is limited to my understanding. And so for me to have best description, I kind of need science to give me cause and effect so that I'm not trying to put in my calculation, adding acid will affect the boiling point. At the moment, it's in my formula because I can see numbers. So you need science to make your maths more understandable or to give it translation between you and reality.
I get it. So it's all even within the substance of information itself, it's technically always going to be secondary to the actual context of what it is being applied to
Yes.
in the explanation.
Yep.
Okay, now it's perfectly clear. Thank you.
Yep. You got it. All right. Next. One of our favorites, right? Models. This is really this term. Is there any other term that gets abused in our genre more than models? Theory, maybe. I don't think there's one. If there is one, you could bring it up after we're done with this train wreck. So, right from their alma mater wiki, reification, also known as concretism, hypostatization, shout out to Nathan, or the fallacy of misplaced concreteness, is a fallacy of ambiguity when an abstraction, that is, an abstract belief or hypothetical construct, is treated as if it were a concrete, real event or physical entity. In other words, it is the error of treating something that is not concrete, such as an idea, as a concrete thing. A common case of reification is the confusion of a model with reality. The map is not the territory. Now, what the ballers will do when we say this, they'll say, well, no one believes that we live on a model or inside a model. That's not what we're saying. If you believe that, you should be institutionalized, right? That's severe mental illness. We're not saying that. If you're using a model to prove something in reality, that's reification also. That's what this just told you, right? So get your act together. Stop strawmanning. A feeble straw man, by the way. I've heard that a number of times over the past 3-4 months. It's weak. Most don't know what it is, so that's the first question I ask. Oh, model, I say define it. And then just watch. I get called so many names for that. They're like, models, don't you know what a model is? It's models. Models predict. Give me a break. You don't even know what it is. And neither do the academics, right? Let's go with Stanford University. Models in science. Here we go. Probing models, phenomenological models, computational models, developmental models, explanatory models, impoverished models, testing models, idealized models, theoretical models, scale models, heuristic models, caricature models, didactic models, fantasy model, here's 3 for the ballers, fantasy models, toy models, and imaginary models, mathematical models, substitute models, iconic models, formal models, analog models, and instrumental models. This is a joke, right? And then they end it with models play an important role in science. And then they contradict themselves. But despite the fact that they have generated considerable interest among philosophers, there remain significant lacunas in our understanding of what models are and how they work with the world. How can they be important in science? Whatever. I'd have to have whoever wrote this define science. I'll bet you they couldn't. How can it have an important role in science when they don't know what it is? Riddle me that. This is just friggin' doublespeak. All this nonsense is. Lacunas, what's a lacuna? A blank space or a missing part, gap, deficiency. So significant gaps, blank spaces, and deficiencies in their understanding of what it even is. They don't even know what it is. Joke. This is jokes, people. Joke. This is a feeble substitute for actual science or an actual argument. Where's your model? Right? How long have we been hearing that? For the flat earthers. Where's your model? Let's see your model. Yeah, I turned the tables on you about 2.5 years ago. Now you should be getting flat earthers. As soon as you say that, show me your model. Right? That ends the discussion, usually in name calling and rumpusing. Right? Like it should. Go over this one. What is a scientific model? That's what I usually ask them after we get past the name calling. So, are you talking about a scientific model? They'll always say yes. Usually, most people say yes. So, let's go to Indiana University Chemistry Department. The important point that Becker introduced, and we're going to circle back to Becker here in a second, is that the explanation of a natural phenomena, then they say, i.e. model theory, they equate those two terms. I don't know why. Must be testable by experimentation. Uh-oh. In other words, once a model is proposed as an explanation of a phenomena, it can only be considered a scientific model. You see this? See, this is what we're searching for. Not a runway model, not any other model that we had above, scientific model. If it can be objectively tested by experiment, that's the only way you can have a scientific model. Right? So that's the scientific method, by experiment, right? So when they say that, I say, okay, okie dokie, natural phenomena observed, please. Alternative hypothesis, independent, dependent variable, please, and a null hypothesis. Yeah. Back to where we started from. Let's go over this guy. Becker. Johann Becker. And if I ask you, does that name sound familiar? You're going to already know because I told you last week. Johann Becker was the main principle behind phlogiston theory. I use that term theory rather loosely, right? But Becker learned his lesson with his model and speculative theory. Just an abject speculation. This isn't a scientific theory, by the way, right? He learned his lesson and said, nope, it's got to be tested by experiment. So at least he learned, right? You have to give the guy that. Common mistakes. We'll finish up with common mistakes in applying the scientific method. From Professor Wolfs at the University of Rochester Physics Labs. The most fundamental error is to mistake the hypothesis for an explanation of a phenomena without performing experimental tests. Sometimes common sense and logic tempt us into believing that no test is needed. There are numerous examples of this dating from the Greek philosophers to the present day. What do we usually get in this genre, right? We get explanations. That's all we get. Well, what's your explanation? I don't know. I don't know if it's correct explanation. What's your explanation? Does anyone have an explanation for this? Oh, you don't have an explanation. I've got an explanation. I win. No. Explanations are just so stories, right? I can give an explanation for anything. So can the village idiot down the street. Anyone can do this. Any idiot can do it, right? We're looking for this. Then this, supported by this. That's the pathway. This as a result and supported from this. Get it? This, hypothesis first. Then the explanation, which is supported from the experimental test. Not just this. We don't need that from you. Those are a dime a dozen. Questions, comments?
Yeah, if you want to claim science, you actually have to do something.
Is everyone alive today?
Say again?
Is anybody alive today?
Yeah, they are. I like the quietness because everyone is getting it. I know they are. It's not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, right? It follows logically. Boom, boom. Each point systematically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 support. Point 1, 2, 3.4, 5 support. There's no way you can get out of this. It's impossible. It's just self-evident. Third grader can evaluate this, incoherent one, in between iterations of Candy Crush. It all follows. It all makes sense. There's nothing to controvert this. Nothing. Zero. I just have to keep on doing it. Right? I'm going to make them sick.
I think
Yeah.
everybody's sleeping.
No one's sleeping, Neil. I couldn't, agree with QE more. This is a drum that we've banged many times, so it's not like we're going to jump in with, "Oh, what did you mean by?" We're all there. I'm sure I gave you personally props for this the other day when you, Tent Man, Adam, and I think Arwin were all discussing something, and when it got to the punchline, you're all jumping in, going, "Exactly," because you all know it. So, yeah. Not going to be jumping for joy. This is important stuff, though. Hence, it's being, how do you phrase it, Q? We've dropped anchor here. So it's not that we're asleep, and it's not that we're bored either. And it's just that we are familiar with it. Maybe it's a bit over familiar. Maybe it's worth you saying this so that we're a bit more sprightly. Woohoo! Science!
Yeah. Hey, our fleet is at rest. We got a good spot. There's plenty of fish, so we like to stay here.
I'm not
Nathan
talking
been
about
drinking?
the usual
Is-
suspects.
I mean, the response is quiet, Neil, in terms of rebuttal.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about the usual suspects. I know you all got it. I mean, everybody else awake? Nobody's got anything to say? Not that I can't listen to QE all day. I can.
And we're not at that stage yet, Neil. We're in the middle of the presentation, so we've not opened up our doors, so to speak. General grey and washed.
Did you say the great unwashed?
Yes, the general public.
See, I've never heard that before.
Never heard the saying the grey unwashed. Okay.
That sounds so British.
I was going to say it's a very familiar term to as the British populace. We are the great unwashed.
What do you wash
Yeah.
with?
Let's get back on track. So yeah, Neil, the doors haven't been open to the general public yet. So that score, you're not going to hear a load of objections. We'll get there eventually.
Thanks, QE, for unmuting me.
You're welcome. I love this.
Nice presentation so far, man. Really enjoy it. Appreciate it.
I've given it like, I ain't gonna exaggerate, probably in the 60s, somewhere in the 60s, 60 times. Swing low. You're gonna get me singing, man. Yeah, that's it. It is what it is.
I can't imagine what it must be like by now to be one of those professional pseudoscientist storytellers that is trying to uphold all the heliocentric nonsense and all that. Like, they would really have to be in a very carefully isolated bubble not to have caught on to what's going on out here somehow. And if they have, they must be getting like this building up tension over time, I think. They're getting sweatier and sweatier.
We're just going to say a little hot under the collar.
Yeah. I had a nice little debate with a Glober yesterday. They were talking about space, and I just said, dark gravity. Why you gotta bring up something that we don't understand? You're just trying to get a win.
He appealed to ignorance? Really?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It was over at Jim's.
Wow. So, as a heliocentrist, you're the victim now. Because you didn't know. That's not much of a defense, really.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was great. I was getting attacked by a bunch of Globers. Yeah. Once you get them in a spot in an argument, they just come at you like a bunch of lions.
They have no teeth.
I was just gonna say that. I couldn't get off mute fast enough, man.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. So what we're trying to say is, if you're in a discussion or in an argument or debate and you're feeling kind of iffy, then run home to mama. Your mama is the scientific method. Always run back to it, right? Because it's like home. It's that warm, fuzzy feeling, right? There's chocolate soup, hot chocolate, rubbing your feet, and say, give me the scientific evidence for your spinning ball space monkey religion.
Notice that was carefully phrased so that regardless of what the question was being put to, you wouldn't be called on it. But it might be worth noting at this point that there's a few people who don't necessarily understand how the arguments are formed. And you'll hear people, I'm not going to name and shame anybody, Spurs Chemo, that would say things like, well, what's your independent variable? When somebody's claimed something like the water cycle. You're like, okay, that's not a natural phenomena that we're trying to claim a cause of in this instance. So why are you asking me for an independent variable, for example? In other words, it's not necessarily going to be reasonable to always call, where's your science? Although the way QE did just phrase it was perfectly valid. Kudos to you.
Yeah, and you are exactly right. I hear out of context, and this goes back to, remember we talked about this many years ago, the 3-month-old with a chainsaw?
That's why I thought of Spurs, to be honest, because it came up when it was Spurs doing it. So obviously, 3 years ago, or however long it was now, you're making the exact same strides as you are now towards educating the people in our arena on what is and what is not science, where it's claimed, why it isn't valid, etc., etc. And part of that process is detailing the scientific method. And Spurs, realised that, wow, that chainsaw is super powerful. And who can blame him? He's like, I'm going to have a go with that. And like you say, it's like a toddler with a chainsaw. Yeah, it can chop down trees in the right hands, but in the wrong hands, you chop your own arms off.
Yeah. It's a painful process sometimes, isn't it? It's painful for me listening. That's where it's the most painful. But kudos for trying, right?
The presentation, Quantum, really detailed like always.
Yeah, thank you. There's more to come in that vicinity. We're going to get into a lot of different topics here coming up, but yeah, thank you.
I've been following you and others as well. You're all legends and
Legends.
Yeah, pretty much. You're all doing legendary stuff. You're all mixing the the convention. You guys have stayed y'all haven't moved the goalpost, unlike these ballers, they've always try to fit their calculations to what they observe.
Moving their goalpost is their sport.
Yeah.
What's the matter with Legend? You go to my first time I was ever on with Nathan Oakley, and I asked him, is this the Legend?
Is that what you said, really?
Well, back to my first time being on. That's what I said.
I can't remember. That's pretty funny. You got a soundbite? Get that soundbite.
I could give you a hint. It was when the pandemic first started, because that's how I wanted to get on Discord. I was bored.
Really?
And I figured it out.
So it was a little over a year ago?
Yeah, the first time I was on Nathan's show.
I thought it was longer than that. It's you're not giving me a hint. You're giving yourself a hint. Now you go on Nathan's channel and you go back to that time. All right, and good luck trying to find that video.
Why? Nathan doesn't have them labeled?
I do have them labeled. They've got numbers on all of them. have we been down the list? What's going on?
We haven't been down the list, and hey, Nathan, could you take the con for like 2 minutes? I'll be right back. You can go down the list if you like.
Now I'm on my iPad. I can't do that.
Oh, you can't do it?
Yeah, you'll have to assign someone else. Maybe Arwin could do it.
Nah, just fill about 2 minutes. I'll tell you what, just fill 2 minutes, and then I'll be right back.
Yeah, I've got no issues re-stressing the importance of
Thank you.
knowing this stuff and saying exactly the same stuff I said at the beginning of the show. But with a good understanding of this, as opposed to a vague understanding of it, you'll recognise nonsense claims where they're nonsense, and you'll smile and think, no, you've not actually established the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena in this particular instance. Yes, you might have induced something to actually happen, but explaining the cause will be established as you, the man, causing it, as opposed to seeing something occurring in nature and saying, what caused that? I wonder. Let's go forth, vary a supposition of what we think causes it, see if it actually does. If it doesn't, we've proved that isn't the cause of it, so we're definitely going to be proving things. And this is why they've used it as a magic trick, because it's empirical. We haven't covered this, or he hasn't covered this in this particular show, but that's the purpose. That's why it's constant by everybody who abuses it. Because if the method is always going to prove something at the end of the method, i.e. you either prove your null or prove your alternative, then you're definitely proving something, hence the empiricism. Well, if you've got something empirical, that's powerful. And you can lend that empiricism or hint at that empiricism with a just so story, just with a few key words, just by saying, my theory, not mentioning that you're going to make up a story like Mystic Meg, my theory is XYZ about the thing I see in the sky. And it's science. And suddenly everybody listening to that will believe every single word of it because you've got a white badge, hope, and you're presenting your information with the words of science. Therefore empirical? Well, no, not unless you've adhered to the actual method of science, and they very rarely, if ever, do. Sure, on one of these presentations, perhaps not this one, Huey went through the statistical likelihood of them actually having experimental data when you've got peer-reviewed science. Something like 0.1%. So small, the amount of actual science out there under the heading of science. It's tiny. Whereas there's very few people actually establishing the cause of a naturally occurring phenomena through systematic experimental based research. It's not occurring. There's a lot of just so stories and maths going on, and a lot of peer review and consensus. Very little actual science. But yet we hear it all the time, right? We hear this word non-stop, even in a kids' movie like I've just watched while the show was running, hence my slight disconnect from where we are in the show. But there we go, constant, because of its suggestion of empiricism. And often there is no empiricism. There's a half-life of the fact they claim has got some empiricism with the words of science. It's just going to be proven wrong a few years later, or the just so story will be altered, not because science changes, but because they didn't have science in the first instance. We're given enough filler for QE.
Yes, I'm back. Thank you very much. Yep, I got it. We have something old and new is the only baller in here. Let's go ahead. Any comments, questions, concerns over the presentation, science, natural science in general?
I'm not a baller.
Oh, you're not. Oh, sorry about that. They mislabeled you.
Yeah. But no, I'm just listening in.
Are you flat earther?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let me square you.
Very logical thinker.
You're golden now. Thank you. Let's go through.
Thank you, sir.
Say again?
No, I just said thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Melby Styles. Going once, going twice. And it would be gone if I had you off of mute.
There you go. I'm here.
Yeah. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Any questions, concerns concerning natural science with the topic of today, presentation of today, or anything in the vicinity will be fine.
No, I just enjoyed listening to you guys. I'm a flat earther, just a new flat earther. I was been a baller was a baller prior since school, I guess, and then just realized that everything was not true that I learned in school, and then yeah, I've been a flat earther for less than a year.
Oh, okay.
Are we saying your name correctly when you get shouted out?
Yes. Yeah, it's Melby. Melby Styles. Yes.
Perfect. Thanks for your support.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're welcome here anytime.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, not a problem. And if you have any questions, a good thing to do is or comments or concerns, it doesn't have to be questions. Go ahead and write them down.
Okay.
Always got a pen and a piece of paper right here, right beside me.
I'm learning so much on Discord ever since I joined.
Ah.
I'll pass that on to Betty.
Yep. And shout out to Betty who couldn't be here today. All right, let's go. Final thoughts. Let's wrap it on up. Final thoughts and channel shout outs. Arwen, you're leading the pack.
Yes. Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed here by Eric Spelding in chat, who said that he knew that we're technically slightly incorrect about the scientific method, but it was too complicated in chat to explain. So I gave him a link to the Discord, and first he said, yeah, I'm going to come on. But then when I said, could you do it now? He said, no, not right now.
yeah, that's right. Yeah. No's the best route to go, Eric. And let me say his name one more time.
Yeah, I get it. Eric Erpelding.
Oh, Eric. I just wanted to bring that. As soon as he said your name, it brought up something because I don't usually respond to posts. But Eric put a post under one of my videos and I responded and I compromised him quick and then he deleted the whole thread. So I got a weathered eye on you, Eric. Go ahead, Arwen.
He just posted that he's logging off right now.
Go ahead, Arwen. You go and finish up.
Yes,
Sorry
yes.
to interrupt.
So yeah, my channel, Arwin, ARWIGN. I have a Flat Earth Early Bird show every day, 1 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekdays, 2 p.m. Amsterdam time in the weekend. Interact with chat a lot. It's been going pretty good in the last week, thanks to Adam Meekin, the man, who helped me with a brilliant overhaul of my show look. Thank you so much for that again. And I interact with chat, answer questions of all kinds. So hope to see you there during the Flat Earth Early Bird show in my chat.
Make sure.
Yeah, great show today. Great show again, Quantum Eraser, the science series. You would think it would get boring after some time, but it seems like every time there's something new and interesting to think about and to talk about.
I always put a couple new twists in each of the presentations.
Indeed.
Hey, go ahead and put your channel in the chat for me, please. I'd appreciate it.
And while Arwen's doing that, how many subscribers are you up to now, Arwen?
Yeah, it's a little higher. I'm having trouble figuring out how to actually get the real number, but it now says 1.88k. So that did indeed go up after that great shout out you gave me this week. Thanks for that, Nathan.
Well, I'd love to get it's 2k. It's just you're bordering on 2k. It'd be nice if you spam in your chat your show link or your channel video, whatever link in the chat feed, and you're watching this either now live on Quantum Eraser channel or on the rerun on my show. Go and subscribe to Arwen. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I watch him daily, which is a testament to the quality of the material. He's very interactive with chat, and he'll answer questions. He'll give you all the passion that you could expect from him in person, which is great because it means that the people who essentially don't necessarily get to interact with Flat Earth Debate, because we, for the most part, ignore the chat, Arwin will interact with you. You don't have to necessarily show your face or come on the show or verbalise anything in an auditory way. You can just type it in the chat and Arwin will respond. And I really like that. I don't interact with this chat, but I do listen to him interacting with this chat as I'm setting up my show now. He does a 2-hour show. So, just for an extra plug to Arwin, as I've been doing it on the Flat Earth Debate this week, go and subscribe to Arwin. You'll thank me later.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Nathan Oakley is ace.
Yes, he is. Creation Bear. You're on mute.
Great show, QE. Good job, rest of the panel. I'm glad we dropped Anchor. I'm taking notes. I got my notepad here as well. You can find me on the 24/7 Discord, hitting ballers with clips, sound little soundboard clips and stuff. I think my next one's going to be the Bakak. I'll have to add that one on.
Yeah.
Thanks again, QE.
You're welcome. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's an original one. I that comes right from the roots. Don Gio.
Appreciate the show, man. It was decent listening to it. Got a funny observation story to tell you real quick.
Yeah, make it real quick.
Real quick. So I asked a baller, is the water in my bathtub observably flat? The response was, did you measure it?
Yeah. What are you gonna do, man? And you'll get into flat and level. Flat's not level, and level's not horizontal, and that's just a nightmare.
I got the soundbite too. You wouldn't be surprised who it is.
No,
at all.
No, I wouldn't be. Not after 5 years. I'm not surprised at all.
Go on, who was it?
Ed.
Oh, shocking.
Ed Vrees.
Yeah, Melby, we already hit you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate.
I'm going to do a shout out for Chocolate because he's not here and he's got a new track out. So go and check out Chocolate Slane's channel if you're not already subscribed. Subscribe today. I don't have a link to spam, unfortunately. But yeah, Chocolate Slane's just released a new track. Very good. Go check it out.
Yeah,
where himself.
Yeah, where is that link?
Well, while you're doing that, if you
Yes.
dig out Chocolate Slane's link, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm going to dig it out.
Yeah, brilliant. While you're doing that, I'll plug me. So right now, literally right now, brand spanking new Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show going to be starting after the roll down reel, which lasts 2 minutes. It goes out a quarter to the hour, which is now. And that's starting now on Nathan Oakley channel. So be here or be sphere for brand new Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. It's very heated towards the end, so stick around for the After Show. It's a good one. And yeah, that's going to be spammed in the link. Subscribe today to my channel, my main channel, which is Nathan Oakley 1980 for daily live Flat Earth Debate. There's also Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show that goes out 24 hours early to members, out the following day and over the weekend for my second channel subscribers. So subscribe today to both those. That's Nathan Oakley, where the most recent or brand new show is going out now, and Nathan Oakley 1980, which is my main channel where the live shows go out. And as always, thank you very much, Quantum Race. A great show. I know we're going to go down the rest of the list before I do a proper round out for the whole show. But yeah, good show, good presentation. Let's continue exactly this. I'm glad we've dropped Anchor here. It's one of my favourite subjects. So yeah, epic presentation as always.
Hey, thanks, Tony. Listen, I'm typing in. I just found Chocolate's link. I'm typing in chat, and Tony hits me with a super chat. Thank you, sir. QE is ace. Thanks a lot, Tony. Appreciate that, man.
Adam and me have already done that.
Tony gives a lot of support. Another extra shout out to Tony. He's always smashing the super chat on my show as well. So big shout out to Tony. Thank you for all the support.
Yeah, he does. You're right. Very consistent. Appreciate it a lot, Tony. Yep. So I spammed Chocolate's link to the music video. I went and tracked it down, a whole hound dog like. So shout out to Chocolate.
But yeah, check out that, and as I say, subscribe to Arwin, go and check out Chocolate's video, and after the show ends, I'll respam the link to the Uncut and After Show, which is brand new and going out right now. Have we got anybody else? Rob, did you want any last words?
Well, I didn't hear the whole show. I joined a little bit. No, we're the ones that are called.
You've been around you've been around a while, Rob, tongue twister. So this is not unfamiliar to you, I'm sure.
I'm kind of shocked. You got something to say now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't say much, but not much that needs to be said. You guys do a lot of great.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And thanks a lot. And shout out to Betty, who just reminded me that there will be no Ballbusters next week. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go on every other week for a live Ballbuster show. That was a good point, Betty. I would have definitely forgot to say that. So from here going forward, every other week will be a Ballbusters, live Ballbusters. Okay?
Isn't that how it's always been?
Yes, but I've been running after shows, and the after shows are up.
Oh, you've run out of after shows. I see. So in other words, it's going to be a live show one week, a rerun on my channel the following week. And
Yeah,
then
you
a
could-
live show on your. Gotcha.
Yes, let's do it that way. Now that because this is where we have our quality time. So yes, that would be a great idea.
Perfect. Did something? I always got this wrong in the first place. Something gold new. Right. Last thoughts, comments. We round out.
Yeah, hey Nathan, have you checked out the song that I wrote? That I tossed your
I
name
don't
in
believe
yet?
I have. No.
Yeah, Creation Bear plays it every now and then. Pretty cool. Yeah, I got your name and I threw it in there with Gas Go Down Boom Boom.
Cool.
It's
Yeah, I'll check it out.
You got it. You got to really hear it.
It's
I'll check it
freaking
out.
hilarious.
I might have.
It's hilarious. It's not. Oh, you heard it, Rob?
Could you post a link?
Yeah,
perhaps, in the
post it.
Discord chat?
Post it right here in Ballbusters live stream. It has the.
Yeah, man, I heard it.
Put it in the. It's hashtag Ballbusters. It's right. It's the text chat just above the VC.
Will do.
Yeah, it's a good song.
Appreciate it, guys.
The Adam Meakin. Oh, let's go to Will. Will, any final thoughts?
Yeah, yo. Well, yeah, I appreciate all the work you're doing, bro. And I already knew about the experiment and the independent variable and dependent variable, but you're just you're pretty much detailing a lot more things, you know, like the things that are like that I did not know, and some stuff that I knew but wasn't really clear. And well, yeah, bro, you have your you know, everything real sealed shut, like real good, and it's hard for these globers to get around other than denying and
Yep.
you know, like their cognitive dis. They're just going crazy.
Obfuscation is the word you're looking for.
Yeah,
obfuscation.
yeah, exactly. You know, yeah, man. I appreciate it again, and I'm actually trying to give some of this information out to Spanish speaking people. If you know, sometime in the future, near future, I'm gonna be debating in Spanish, and of course, I'll be you know, using the scientific method and all that. Now that it's way much clearer than, you know, that I found you, and also Nathan. I've been kind of checking his stuff out too, and yeah, y'all really solid, you know. So yeah.
Based on what you've just said, you won't have any problems. Obviously, if you're, I don't know if you're a native Spanish speaker, but
Yes.
language aside, based on you saying, I'll be debating with the scientific method, but then you'll win.
Right, like Quantum said, like it's pretty much what we have to go back to, you know, like if they have a claim, well then, okay, observe phenomena. Let's go with the scientific.
Well, let me see if I can't get Betty to go ahead and translate all my videos into Spanish, and then I'll send you the link.
Oh, nice.
No, I'm just messing with
Well, as you brought up Betty, Betty's a good example of this because there's a couple of occasions that Betty was out on the debating circuit, and on the one occasion she was, I phrase this politely, allowed herself to be taken away from the scientific method and didn't do so well, and then on other occasions rigorously stuck to the scientific method and won. Just that simple.
Yeah, it really is. I've been having like text chats with a bunch of debating, and I just keep going back to the scientific method, and they really don't have anything to go back with other than pseudoscience and speculation.
Oh, by the way,
Comes back home to mama.
By the way,
It's a perfect.
go ahead, Nathan.
I was going to say that's a perfect conclusion because I can make this statement and it will reiterate the importance of this show or these shows. There is no scientific evidence for the heliocentric worldview. None. Zero. Nada.
I agree.
You're in trouble, Nathan. He's obviously back from midget golf.
No.
What the F?
Hey, shout out to Tony Wickham again. Thanks for the next super chat, guys. Work my hands off to support Flat Earth. Yes, you do. And it's not going unnoticed, sir. So shout out to Tony again. Thank you.
Did you want to do any shout outs, Adam? Or, your roundup?
Well, yeah, just do what? Yeah, well, first of all, Owen, thanks for the kind words, brother. It's, I think I'd echo Nathan's words. Owen show's great. There's a reason I bothered to spend time on it. Again, something I watch on a daily basis, and like anyone, subscribe, because if you do want to interact with chat and get an honest response, well educated and well versed flat earther, you'll get an honest response. Owen shows the place to go for that. Nathan's is very different. Do you know what I mean? It's but if you actually want some engagement without necessarily Nathan says go on air, it's a great place, and you'll get a truthful answer. So yeah, shout out Owen.
It's a different type of net than I've got. Very different type of net. So, for example, another reason why I like Arwen shows because I get to debate some of the guys that are a bit scared to come on my show. People like Simon Dan will go on Arwen's chat. I get to pummel them in there. It's great.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Other than that,
comes in.
kudos, mate. It's a great show, and you need to get over that too, and then it'll come again, won't it? But yeah, so that's on. On tonight's show, I'll address what Neil said because it's weird, as a panel member, you sit here and Huey goes through some stuff, and some of the shows we've got questions. I mean, other shows, you want to make an additional point where you can hopefully help someone. In a lot of this is reiteration of the method and its importance. There's not necessarily a great deal to add other than nod in agreement, and probably doesn't come over best without video, if you see what I mean. So, yeah, for me, John, thanks again, because outside of me agreeing with it is important, and it was alluded to. It's a great fallback, but more importantly, it's truthful. It's holding them to the claim and the validity that they're making their claim has. So you're just holding them to the validity that they say they've got with their claim, with the method they claim it applies to. And as you'll see in a lot of debate with ballers, as soon as you do that, they're done. They're destroyed. You've won.
Yep. I just switch it up on them. Yep. They don't like that too much. Hey, appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Nathan, take us home, sir.
Well, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who joined us in the Quantum Eraser live stream for hopefully sharing, commenting, subscribing, smashing the chat, all that good stuff. Obviously, a massive thank you to all of the live Discord panel that joined from the public section of this show. I've got a show running right now, so be here or be sphere for brand new Flat Earth debate, uncut and after show on the Nathan Oakley channel, which is going out right now. Again, I'll spam a link in the live stream chat. I've been Nathan Oakley. A massive thank you to Quantum Eraser for running today's presentation, and we'll see you all in next Ballbusters.